Good morning. It's Tuesday. It's 10 a.m. I don't think I could have timed that better unless I used the computer to do it, and I didn't. I did it by the click of my own hand on that button and told it to start playing, and it just worked perfectly. So this is it's Tuesday. So we're gonna have coffee and conversations. It will you Bible and your beverage, the word and water. Water in the word, coffee and conversation. All these fun little names I've come up with this thing for. Maybe we'll rebrand it at some point down the road and we will call it something even different. Who knows? Maybe we'll move the time at some point. Wonder if more people would come if or participate live if we had it at a different time. I would love to actually know that. That's a curious question. If you come regularly, if I had it at a different time, would that impede your participation? And then if you are watching this after the fact, if I had it at a different time, would that allow you to participate? I'd love for you to throw that in the comments. Thought about lunchtime on a day because, some people are working right now and other people aren't. So anyhow, coffee and conversations. We have Q&A at the end. Jill asked a question last week that I will actually answer when we jump into the Bible passage. She asked about whether the situation with the proconsul, if that's occurring early in the ministry or at the end of Paul's ministry in Corinth. And so we will hit that up. We're going to be in Acts chapter 18 to 23 again, or not again, but continuing on and looking at Paul's departure from Corinth and heading to Antioch and his trip along the way. But before we get there, here are the announcements I've got for you. First is this coming weekend is the mission trip garage sale fundraiser, and that's happening Friday and Saturday. You can bring your stuff on Thursday to drop off, and the missions team will disperse it all and figure out where to put it, and it's going to be a great time. I hope you'll plan to donate good stuff that people will want to buy, and then come and maybe see if there's anything that you want to buy. See those wrong hand, that hand, see those stools back there? Those are sitting in my office because we're going to put them for sale at the garage sale, and hopefully someone will buy them. Who knows who needs two different stools. And I've got a painting over there, and I've got stuff in my living room at my house. I made the kids donate toys, and we're just piling stuff up, and we're going to bring it on Thursday. So hope you'll plan to do that. And then on June 7th at 7 p.m., we're having our night of worship where we're going to pray together, sing together to the glory of God, and just come before the King and ask him to do things that only he can do. And we're going to just petition and lift up our voices together. It's going to be a great time. I hope you will plan to come and participate, and we will see you that evening. So, Karen said, it depends on what time or day or whatnot if I were to do it. Well, yeah, obviously. That is expected. That's understandable because, if I did it at 4 a.m. on Saturday, I don't think anyone's showing up. I wouldn't show up. And that would be awful boring for anyone who showed up themselves. So, let's jump into Acts chapter I wanted to say 2, but we're definitely not in Acts chapter 2. We're in Acts chapter 18, and we're going to look at verses 18 to 23. And so last week, Jill asked at the end of our time whether this whole event, which is a giant mess now that whether this event occurred when Paul had been there for the during the year, and why is it doing that? 6 months, if it occurred before it, or if it occurred at the end of it. And you know what? There's differing opinions on whether this happened at the beginning of his time in Corinth and gave him confidence to continue to minister there, or if it happened at the end of his time in Corinth and he then leaves. So likely it happens at the end. And so when it says after this, Paul stayed many days longer. So, but not an extended period of time, not like months. He stays maybe a month longer. So this probably, the event happened, Jill, at the end of Paul's time at Corinth. That's what most of the commentators said, but at least one said, well, it could have happened earlier. So by the structure of the passage, it seems to indicate that it happens towards the end, and Paul is ministering there. So, but it's not with absolute certainty, because sometimes authors and writers will put things out of order. If you read multiple accounts in the Bible, if you read the Gospels, you can see that sometimes things are not always put in the same order, because they're telling it from a story perspective, not like a biographical and this is going to sound like not a strict timeline approach. So, but it is most likely that event happened at the end of his time in Corinth, and then he stays many days longer, and then took leave. So this is probably occurring in the event with the proconsul is probably occurring in AD 51, I think is what it was, and probably in August, and then he proceeds away in the fall, in September at some point, to head to Syria. If I remember correctly in my readings, that was kind of the consensus, is that he's there not months or years after the proconsul event, but just a few weeks, and he proceeds on. And so then he took leave of the brothers and sisters from the church in Corinth, and he set sail to Syria with him Priscilla and Aquila. At Cenchrea, he had cut his hair, for he was under a vow. So Paul has probably at this point undertaken a Nazirite vow, which is a vow that was established in the Old Testament law. And it was a way that someone could set themselves apart for service, or to thank God, to ask God to be present and help them know things. And so this is showing Paul's Jewish heritage, how Paul has not cast off all his upbringing and all his identity as a Jew. He still views himself as Jewish, and he's having all these things that come with that he's doing these practices that were common to his people. He has not cast aside all the Old Testament. He is still thoroughly Jewish, and he's undertaking this vow as a way to dedicate and set himself apart in set himself aside. That doesn't make sense. Apart for service to God. And I think it's a noble idea, and it's something that we can do ourselves too. There are ways we can set ourselves apart to serve God in significant ways, and we can say, God, I need your help right now. I want to hear from you in a more profound way. One of the ways that we as believers, as Christians, coming from a more Gentile background, we would do is we'd fast. We would have an extended period of fasting. We see in the Bible throughout it that sometimes people will fast as a way to set themselves apart for God, to service to God, and say, God, I really need your direction on this and your guidance on this. And so it is a good thing to set ourselves apart for service to God in unique ways. Those practices aren't prescribed for everyone. Not everyone has to do it, but we can, and there is benefit from doing it. And so Paul cuts his hair, and his vow was over, and he's either received the answer or his message of thanksgiving, his act of thankfulness to God for what God has done. He completes it. And they came to Ephesus, and so he's in Ephesus now, and he left them, Priscilla and Aquila, but he himself went to the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. So remember, in previously, he's like, I'm done with you guys. I'm going to the Gentiles. but he's going to the synagogue. He's reasoning with the Jews. So his ministry and his methods of ministering to the Jews didn't cease. He still wants the Jews to come to know Christ and have faith. And he reasoned with them. Friends, it is a good thing to reason with people, to try and have them believe. We want people to believe, and our faith is not foolishness. It's not just a pipe dream. It's not as Karl Marx put it, opium for the masses. It is reasonable that the tomb was empty. It's weird to think about that a dead man rising from the grave is reasonable, because it sounds unreasonable, but the evidence of it proves the reasonableness of it. And so we want to reason with people to have faith. It's a good thing to point people to evidence and be prepared to point them to that evidence and seek people out to reason with them. Friends, are you reasoning with people for the faith? I hope that you are. I hope that you're seeking opportunities, because if they don't have Jesus, they're lost. They have no hope. And we have hope because of what Christ has done, and his resurrection proves that and affirms for us the validity of our faith. When they asked him to stay for a longer period, he declined. He knew that he had to move on. He couldn't stay in Ephesus for that period of time. But taking leave of them, he said, "If I will return to you, if God wills." And he set sail from Ephesus. So Paul, he's admitting the fact that he is not in control, that he needs to live according to God's providence and God's sovereign will. And sometimes the Lord will allow us to do things, and sometimes he won't. When I take notes in my own personal Bible reading, I like to make this symbol. Anytime I observe God's sovereignty and something that was indication of someone submitting to God's sovereignty. And that's what Paul's doing here. He's saying, I don't know what the Lord has for me, but if he wills, I'm going to come back to you because I want to do this. Kind of affirms or goes in conjunction with James chapter 4, where he says, some of you say you're going to go to such and such a city and you're going to make a bunch of money. And he's like, guys, you don't have any clue what the Lord will do in a year. Say, if the Lord wills, we will do this. Friends, are you living your life according to the providence and sovereignty of God, saying, God, if you desire to do this, I want this to happen? So Paul is saying he is operating with his life in light of God's sovereign will. So often we can operate our life according to our plans, our purposes, where I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, we're in less control than we actually think we are. So Paul is showing us what it's like to live in light of the fact that we are finite human beings. He says, when he had landed in Caesarea, he went up and greeted the church. The church, and then went down to Antioch. The church here, it's probably the church in Jerusalem, because he went up. Jerusalem is the only area in that part of the region that would be going up topographically. Is that the right word? I want to say geographically, but that doesn't seem like the right word. But you have to go up to go to Jerusalem. And then to go to Antioch, you would go down because of elevation change. So this is probably him going to Jerusalem. Doesn't say it explicitly, but the language would indicate going to the church in Jerusalem. Anyhow, and after spending time there, he departed and went from one place to the next through the region of Galatia and Phrygia, strengthening all the disciples. Oftentimes when we think of Paul's missionary efforts, we think of him only planting and starting new churches and then him leaving them to survive on their own. But that's not Paul's method. Paul's method is to plant churches and then circle back with them and make sure they're doing okay. Plant churches and circle back with them and make sure they're doing okay. Plant churches and make sure they're doing okay and circle back with them. Because you don't want to leave these believers without discipleship. Belief is critical, but discipleship is important too. We want to both help people come to faith, but then strengthen their faith and encourage them. kind of like the passage from this past Sunday. What is he doing for the church in Ephesus? He's praying for them to grow in their understanding of what the Lord has done. He's discipling them from afar and praying for them that they would grow in their faith, because it's not just the beginning of the journey that matters, but it's the whole thing. And we want to strengthen and encourage other believers. So we have this dual aspect of things we want to do. It's like the bicycle, right? We want to cause people. We want to not cause people, because we don't do that, but we want to seek to help people come to faith. And then at the same time, we want to disciple those who have. So we should be seeking as believers to do both. As Christians, as followers of Christ, as disciples, we want to win people to the Lord and strengthen them in their faith. So, friends, I hope this passage will encourage you, that it will strengthen you, that it would cause you to consider if you need to do something to set yourself apart to the Lord in some specific and unique way. If that's something you want to do, you could talk to me. I'd love to help you consider and process through that. I hope you'll be considering on who you can reason with for the Lord and who you can strengthen in the faith. Those things. If friends, if you want help in those areas, love to help you with that, and would love to see you pursue those things with passion. So I hope you have a great rest of your week. No one's thrown any questions in the comments, so we will sign off, and I will see you maybe at the garage sale. Yeah, we'll see. All right. Talk to you later. Signing off.